we have burdens and brokenness that let alone makes us fight and have division and hate in our lives. Let alone the things that truly do come at us, whether it be someone on the street, a boss we don't get along with. And as a nation, I don't know about you, I think some of us, some people say, we look at the world today, and when our country is at war, how many in the 1970s, the James Bond movies in the 80s were against the Russians? Our enemies were the Russians, and today they tend to have a little Middle Eastern flair often of our war movies. Even though September 11th really was almost 18 years ago, we still, when we look at somebody and we hear things, sometimes we think of terrorism. I think it's our own flaw. But sometimes our mind is to think that person, that ethnicity, that whatever, which is not right. But we are people who get stuck in hating those who hate us rather than what Jesus says to love them. When we say to love them, Jesus is calling us first, and especially when he taught us to pray the Lord's Prayer, then maybe we need to take a look at ourselves. Or take a look at the greater situation, because we're sometimes so focused on ourselves and our hurt, our emotion, our pain, our sorrows, that we don't end up reaching out to those who we need to reach out to. We say, you have hurt me, you have done this wrong, I cannot trust you, I cannot love you. But when we look at the Lord's Prayer, we look at ourselves, we say, God, forgive me. And that reminder makes us to see that maybe there's something in our own lives, something in our own heart that causes us to hurt others. I read a devotion this week that talked about how people who hurt people hurt people. That each and every one of us at some point in our lives go through some hurt, and sadly, rather than dealing with it and laying on the cross, oftentimes we take maybe what one person's done to it and transfer it onto somebody else. We are all guilty of it in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's in our families, whether it's at work, or even in the church. There's sometimes we get so upset with the way things are going that rather than looking to heal and to support and to build up, we further wound. I think sometimes it's because we let our emotions get the best of us. We let ourselves beat each other down. Or even beat ourselves up to where we can't move past certain things. Oftentimes we think, well, you know what? Unless that person comes to me, I will never forgive them. Unless they make the first move. And then you have the funeral of the brother, the sister, the somebody in your life that you're at odds with. I've had many funerals, and one of them, the saddest, was where somebody, rather than looking to heal and help the situation, they came up to me and wanted to have a quick eulogy. I said, may I see what you're going to read quick? Because it was a family that was very divisive. There was wounds from years ago, and this person who wanted to speak kind of had a reputation of tearing down rather than building up. And when I looked at it, it was just that. Because of maybe the hurt and loss of a sister that he went on and now to seek revenge against her kids, against the rest of the family, against the medical field and everything else who was to blame for her death, not the actual cancer that took her life. He wanted to blame everybody else except for the truth of that she was in But then in funerals, there's been times where people, well, the saddest things to see is that you have someone who says, you know what, tomorrow, or until, as they say, unless they come to me. But then that person dies. And I've seen brothers and sisters and family members coming and weeping, saying that, I wish I would have. I wish I would have just let my anger go and said I'm sorry, so we could have maybe ended on a good note. What a devastating feeling that is to see. But the good news is when we pray that prayer, forgive us of our trespasses. Again, it makes us realize that we too are people. That at one point we're enemies of God. That because of sins that we have done in our own life, the things whether we meant to do or accidentally done, because there's many times in life where our intentions are good. But because of how someone else interprets it, it becomes such a mess and full of pain and sorrow. But even for those things, that Jesus Christ had to come on the cross and pay for the sins of you and for me, all who were enemies of God. But the good news, that even if we are enemies of God, we have been forgiven. He came and died for you and for me. And that now, not only do we have forgiveness, but we have an opportunity to see that, you know what? I can't control what the other person does. But I can control at least how I act. And forgiveness isn't always an emotion, because like forgiveness, we treat love as always a warm and cozy, hot feeling of emotions. And to be honest, love and forgiveness is oftentimes an action, not an emotion. An action to say that I'm not going to seek revenge. I'm not going to carry on the fight. I'm not going to seek to damage the other person, because to be honest, it only damages ourselves. When we look at our text today, the point of it is really to see that none of us are perfect. None of us are able to do the things that God can do. God is the only one who can forgive the enemy perfectly. He is the only one who can provide for the poor. He is the only one who could take the beating and punishment of this earth and create new life. The good news is that when Christ went to the cross, He paid for all your sin. He paid for all my sin. And because of that, we are now free. Not free children, not people to be beaten and abused, but free children of the Most High God. This life can be hard. We make it hard on ourselves. But the good news is today, we have the forgiveness of the Most High God that no one can take away. And so may you this week, whatever you may face, know that you are no longer enemies, but prized children of the Most High God. Amen. Please rise, and we'll sing together.